And welcome back to a fresh episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Sam Dunning, co-owner over at webchoiceuk.com. And if you haven't yet, check out my weekly email where I share actionable website and B2B marketing tips, useful podcasts, goodies, resources, and more to kick off your week with a bang. Why not give it a shot over at businessgrowth.emails. So joining me today, we've got Giovahnna Ziegler. Giovanna's the head of marketing over at Fintastic. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Looking forward to it. So, Giovahnna, we're going to be talking exactly how you can build a marketing engine from scratch. So let's get stuck into it. Let's jump into the show. First and foremost, Giovahnna, how much of a priority do you believe that marketing should be when we compare to other departments? Let's say things like sales, maybe product development, maybe finance. Like, there's so much that makes up a business, right? How much importance should we place on marketing?
Well, I'm a little biased, of course, but if you want your product to sell, you should make marketing a priority. There is not a way around it. I mean, marketing is just a fundamental pillar of your business. It's like if you write a blog and you don't marketing, nobody's, it doesn't matter how good the blog is going to be, nobody's going to read it. If you write a book, no matter how good the book is, or if you make a movie, no matter how good the movie is, if you don't market well, simply it won't work. So these are things to be discussed from the beginning, from day one, as a marketing person, as a marketing professional, directly with the C-suite, with your CEO, with what's the goal of the company, where do you want to go, what do you want to achieve, what are the KPIs, discussing this. If marketing is not a priority, there's something weird behind it, there's something going on over there. But yeah, this is fundamental for every business, no matter if it's B2B, B2C, if it's the most basic things. I've seen companies doing sales before marketing, and it doesn't work. I'm sorry to say, it doesn't matter your type of business, you need to show off. There isn't much way around it.
Yeah. I want to look at this from two angles. I know you're going to share with us a strategy of how you can set up a marketing engine from scratch because you've done it before.
Yeah.
Before we dive into that, I want to look at this from two angles. So initially, I agree with you, but I want to play devil's advocate too, to make this more interesting. So I often say similar to what you've just shared there, Giovahnna. So a lot of prospects, a lot of clients come to us wanting websites. And often one of the first things I'll ask, especially if they're a relatively new or startup business, is, well, that's all good and well, but what are you going to dedicate to actually market the thing? Because I think a lot of people just believe that, even today, that if you build it, they're going to come, which couldn't be more far from the truth, especially with websites, which is pretty much most B2B companies or most tech companies, their foundation. Really, it's the thing that's going to drive the demo requests or the consult requests or people raising their hand to speak to sales. And it's like, well, yeah, you can build an awesome, all singing, dancing website, but if no one can find it, whether that's on Google search, whether that's social, whether that's another channel that they hang out, whatever it may be, then it's almost useless, right? So marketing's that foundation that's actually going to build that brand, build that awareness, and drive people to the thing you want them to convert on. But oh, you go ahead. Yeah. I want to hear your feedback.
I mean, first of all, I love the devil's advocate, because I think if you're not questioning, you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not questioning, you are not trying enough, and you're not putting data into perspective. We need to always test and balance things. But I know you're building your question, but you're kind of giving me an advantage here with your own with your own inquest, because truth is, even if you're just doing a website, you still need marketing people behind it, and not just for people to find you, because SEO is also marketing, but in order to convert, you want people to convert to a demo, good content, a good brand, authority, and every little aspect of marketing that you can put inside to help your conversion. This is all marketing. I've seen, like, basically I helped 3 to 4 companies to raise their marketing department from scratch. When I say
Right.
companies, they're like very successful companies nowadays. Most of them B2B. Most of them had a prototype of website. I cannot call it a website, but a website that it was not so embarrassing to show. Um, Taking it from a data perspective, after I joined and after I did the right modifications, you see that they only had a business card. And after you add marketing to this equation, that's how you generate what you actually wanted with the website. So everything is kind of marketing. I'm sorry.
This is a tough one, but before we go to my devil's advocate question, when you say before we add marketing, what is your definition of marketing in that case, like a startup's website?
Oh, that's a great question, because marketing has a variety of departments and qualities that people don't often mention. But from a keywords research to understand your audience desires,
Yep.
to a way of direct to the copy of the website, and to also always put into perspective A/B tests to understand what are the best call to action, what are the best headlines you can put, what are the best slogans you can put. This is a mix of demand generation and brand, and many call brand, you can call product marketing, so you can also understand other aspects of the brand, but it's brand and demand generation. There is, whenever you have data in order to prove, for example, what converts the most, it doesn't matter, even though involves copy, involves the creative part, involves the brand, you still need the demand generation part in order to understand what actually works, because we don't want it to be a common problem in marketing, which is opinion over data.
Hmm.
So these are my points into transforming something you have to show, which is like a page, a website, to a function, important part of your funnel of to generate conversions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as I ramble on about on many of the guest episodes and solo episodes that we run on the show, that I strongly agree with you in terms of not going with your own opinion, but actually going with data or what the market, what your buyers, what your prospective people, the people that are actually going to pay for your product, your service, your software,
Yeah.
what they care about, and what they've proven to care about over kind of what you think personally is going to work, because ultimately they're the ones buying your stuff. But let's get back to flipping this. So you mentioned marketing's the most important thing, but surely if you're a startup and let's say you've built a new product, maybe it's, I don't know, some kind of tech, maybe software, maybe it's a CRM, maybe it's something else, but surely you've got to prove concept first. Sure, you've actually got to get some prospects that are willing to part with their cash so you can prove there's product market fit before you then invest into marketing, whether that's your own department, outsourced, whatever.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's, again, I don't think it contradicts the fact that marketing is a priority. I'm not saying it's a priority number one. I still think, and people might kill me for saying that as a marketing person, but I still think product should be the biggest priority. I'm sorry. Like, after years working with, seeing consulting, working as a consultant for B2B, I saw many companies that they just existed because they wanted to raise money, and they just, like, I don't love this new business model. So I do admire a good product. I think, there's so much space to different things, for a variety of things that can actually improve people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
and people's work lives, not just personal. But after product for sure. I would say it's marketing, but as a marketing person, you don't want to advocate the bad cause.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
I think, yeah, I think after, if you have the privilege, of course, to choose what you're going to advocate, what you're going to promote, nobody wants to, use your skills use your power for the evil.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we've looked at both sides of it. So, right, we've built up to it well. We've talked about kind of why marketing is important, but I really want to know kind of your recommendations, Giovahnna, in terms of what are some of the steps that need to happen when we are building out a marketing department for a startup, a new company, whatever it may be. So, what are some of the very first things? Let's say we've built a great product. Maybe we can say we're in the B2B tech spaces. I know that's where you've worked a lot. So perhaps we've built a great product. We've proved that it's got some kind of product market fit. Now, what are some of the first considerations when it comes to actually building our marketing engine? What should we consider first?
That's a great question. I have a friend. She's a CISO, and she taught me. I admire her very much, and she taught me. For her career, it's very important to have checklists, and I do have some checklists for marketing as well. Before even you do a marketing plan, make sure you have a CRM and track everything you do. There's a very specific technicality between installing tracks and pixels and everything you can. So nothing that you do from that will be lost, would be, a data that you lose.
Right.
So this way you can have understanding of your business from day zero, not even day one. But one thing that I say a lot, and I think it goes for every professional, it doesn't matter if it's marketing, sales, product, whatever, the communication and align expectations with management and company goals. If you have your KPI set, your budget set, you have to understand and to respect two things: product limitations and capabilities. Again, you don't want to falsely advocate what you have, and to the limitations with your budget and your persona. I work with B2B mostly, and it gets more expensive by the minute. And sometimes you are hired and your CEO comes to you and say, like, we need to have whatever, 100 clients in 1 year, and we have $100,000 to get these clients.
Yep.
No, sir, we can't. Like, get a benchmark to explain with data. Okay, the costs of leads in our market. You have this research. You don't have to invent the wheel. It's very basic. It's like most cases you are entering a company that probably have many competitors. To create something exclusively unique. It's not even a smart move. It doesn't it usually means, if it's too unique and nobody thought about that, it means that maybe people don't need it. So you probably have the competitors. Do your research, understand like the benchmarks. Don't get limited to the benchmark mark, of course, but like put this to perspective into data.
Yep.
And do your math. You do your math correctly on how much will cost to get the leads and how much is the conversion. And after the first month or two, you have a better understanding of your own metrics, and you can present a better plan with data. But don't set down for fear. Like your CEO wants something, now you have to pretend this is possible. Just it's not. It's going to be a frustrating road if you fool yourself. Just it's very simple. Data is beautiful because you don't have to kill yourself to prove guts. You have numbers. So that's
Okay.
that's the first thing I would recommend. Do your math right, put your KPIs into alignment. And yeah,
Cool.
that's
So, a few points there to dive into. So, first and foremost, you said set up your CRM, make sure you're tracking all things in terms of data. So are we saying things like website traffic, website session times, page views, conversion rates, as
Yeah.
well as, like you mentioned, pixels through your ads? Make sure basically your website analytics are all set up so you can understand kind of what ads are
Correct.
linking through to your site and all those bits and
Correct.
pieces. Cool. And with that, we moved on to communication and expectations in terms of budget. What we could do,
and product capabilities.
and product capabilities, okay.
Yes.
So what we could do, what I sometimes like to do with guests, Giovahnna, if you're up for it, is do a scenario. So use this that we've talked about and basically say maybe we've got a 20K a month spend. How we're going to split it, if you're up for that.
I can try, yeah.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's hypothetical.
Why not?
So we can get it. We'll get into that in a sec, but we'll bear that in mind.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, because that's always a tricky one, right? Because CEOs, founders, the sales team, they're going to want marketing to generate as many sales qualified leads, demo requests, whatever that main inbound hand raising point of view is. They're going to want as many as possible. So how do you manage those expectations? So say, for example, the CEO says, look, you've got 20 grand a month and I want, I don't know, 200 demo requests. And you just say, not sure about that. And then how do you set expectations? How do you have that conversation?
That's where I say the communication comes in hand, because like, what are those numbers like? Let me see. This is this is what I want. It's like, it's it's not it's not your wishes. It's about understanding the market. If you are so far out of marketing, you hired a person that knows and trusts this person to tell you. So, I'm not saying that you should be this stubborn person that knows that she's right and then just listen to me because I'm going to tell you. No, like, you have data, you have research to show them, to present to them, like, this is the benchmark. If we are above it, show different scenarios, for us to be above average, for us to be below average, for us to be average. These are the probabilities of success. This is how much we can do with the money according to the benchmark. This is what we can do to generate this and this and that.
Yeah.
And again, communication is important, not just because you align expectations, but also it's good for you to protect yourself from false expectations, to protect yourself, to avoid this. Well, but I thought this is what we wanted. No, 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 no. We communicate, we have everything written, we have everything like in the paper. This is what, these are the KPIs, these are the things we want. And also, one of the things to align, and I think it's very important in the beginning, is to understand, what's more important for your company, if it's your brand, or if it's the demand generation, or if it's like the product marketing, or if it's the the leads generation and the active marketing. So I've been into the situation before where I was put in the same position as a director of demand generation and a director of product marketing, and we would have to decide amongst ourselves what would be like done first. Okay, and it's totally possible, by the way, to have both of them as important for your company, but you have to understand that if they are both working in parallel, there will be other limitations into like money. It's going to be extremely expensive to have both of them like working at the same in the same proportion, and it's going to be much more slow for example marketing to demand to generate demand. So it's again, it's aligning the expectations. Okay, you want both things, but you're going to spend a lot of money and a lot of time. Can you afford that? Okay, if you can't, so choose a priority, because it's two different departments. It's completely different work, brand and demand. It's very, of course they are aligned, but they're completely different. One is completely mathematical. The other one involves a lot of things, including sales, including product, just align expectations is the best thing you can do to protect yourself in your career.
Yeah, It makes sense, right? I guess in this situation, we're going to push for max demo requests for our tech company, as we've got quite a strict budget. So I'm not sure if 20 grand a month is going to suit a full blown demand creation campaign. And for our example, I'm going to say that we've actually got the sector itself, let's say, is mature, so it's established the sector we're in, so there is existing demand to capture. But we'll get into that in a sec. Now, you mentioned you can leverage data to when you're speaking to the C-suite, when you're speaking to the founder, and you're trying to reason with them about the amount of actual results, the amount of demo requests, or whatever we're going for is going to be generated here. What are some ways that are effective to actually grab that data? So if you're how do you get
it? I have something funny to say prior to that.
Sure.
That I think marketing is maybe the only. I'm not sure, if somebody knows differently, please let me know. But I think marketing is one of the only career path that you actually introduce data. You show 1 + 1 = 2, and you still hear, but I don't think so. Like this is classic, it takes a long time to gain authority in the subject, but once you have,
such a good point.
once you have, which takes time, but once you have, there are many ways you can do that. Okay, like if you have a presentation to do, you're saying we establish, okay, we have some comparison between months, and you can always you can do this in a simple spreadsheet. Many people think that they are data oriented, okay, and that's a tricky thing, because they think they are data oriented, and then you show them numbers and they get completely confused. So what I always do is I present two different things. I present story, and I present numbers, because if you are one or another, you're going to pay attention in the one that it's more related to you. So this is like it takes a little bit more time, but it's one of the things to keep it in the safe side. You again, I'm not the I usually don't say a lot about benchmarks, because many CEOs that I met in the past, they are like, they have this concept of like, oh, but we are not in the benchmark, we're much better than the benchmark, like why are we comparing ourselves to others? Like, this is the job. We have to compare, we have to understand the competitors. This is part of the work of marketing. We have to do this type of research to understand where do we stand, okay, to understand that what do we offer differently than the competitors, and is this a motive for them to buy? So if so, let's test this in the message. Okay, what message is more important? I mean, the message that converts the most is the one that shows the differentiator, or the one that says the same thing as the others, but differently in our brand, in our authority, our this. And this is where data comes handy. It doesn't matter your opinion. I'm testing. I usually don't discuss with anyone. It's like, okay, you think this is going to work? I am going to do this. It's going to cost you more, even though I probably know the answer, but I usually don't say 100%. Okay, you really, really want to insist on that. I don't fight with anyone. Come, I'm taking, and I'm A/B testing. Show the results. Did you see you lose? Did you see you were wrong? Can you understand? Can I do my job now? And then you move forward. Again, and sometimes you show still, you see that you lose, and you still say like, yeah, but I don't agree with it. You're going to hear that a lot.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. What's the and was that in terms of kind of telling a story? Is that what you just explained there, or is that a bit different? Because you mentioned you can kind of go with data with pure numbers, or you can kind of build a story around it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complex subject, because
Sure,
you can. I'm a storyteller by nature, so for me, it comes hand in hand. If I see a number, I try to explain why this happens, and this is a way to tell a story. Um, People are more engaged to emotions than with reality. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the emotions are real or not. You have more chances to capture them if you have emotional triggers. And this works not only when you are advertising things, this works also when you're communicating with your C-suite. So it's like tell a story of this, of the whys that this happens. I mean, when I'm telling a story, I learned something with a VP of mine from the past. Always starts with the why, right? Starts with Always starts with the why, and then goes, you move to the how, and then you move to the what. If you have those, if you can explain numbers within these questions, you have a story that
Gotcha.
people understand because you have a structure to the story.
Okay.
That's my rule of thumb for storytelling in data.
Yeah. I like it. So that's all fine and well in terms of presenting the data. If we're a company and we're already doing marketing and we're, like you say, people are raising suggestions and we're running A/B tests, we're testing things out, we're proving concepts or not. If we are this startup company and we haven't done anything yet, but you mentioned earlier we can grab data from maybe competitors, we can check out what they're doing. What are some ways that, let's say that we've got some marketers tuning in that are perhaps in a similar scenario, how can they actually effectively steal that data to their benefit so they can then present to C-suite founders, whoever they report to, on this is what other companies are doing. This is a rough idea of, I don't know, what LinkedIn ads results they're getting right now, what Google ads results they're getting, other marketing efforts, etc. Like, how do they grab that and how do they utilize it?
That's a great question because I have my routine. I think it works very well, but probably many other marketers, they have their own. But I do a certain kind of brand book. That is like, it sounds a little bit old fashioned, but the way I do it is, you 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 build up your brand with your tone and your voice and the things that you want to change and the things that you want to do and your product capabilities, and you build up that decks of us versus competitors, what we have similar, what we have different, and we merge with companies that we admire. That doesn't mean that they are competitors like other companies. For example, I admire very much a company called Lemonade, and I love their brand. They are not even a B2B company; they are a B2C company, and I always use them in example of stunning marketing and other companies as well. So we try to merge things that we admire with things that we know our competitors are doing, and fit that into the tone that we just created, the tone that we decided that this is going to be our way of saying. When you're building a persona and you give them characteristics and you give them, like, you go a little bit creative into who is this person, where does she work, what's her routine. Do the same thing with your company. Treat your company as a persona, give it characteristics. Actors do that all the time when they receive a character. They build their background, the way they talk, the way they walk, things that happen in their past. For example, when I was building Fintastic, tone of voice, it's like we're like a whiskey of the of the companies. We are the James Bond of B2B for financial teams, and that gives you a certain understanding of, okay, we're sophisticated. We don't talk in slangs. We are more, we're cool, but we are not childish cool. So this gives you human understanding of how your company portrays itself. So after you have this, it's easier to create content. It's easier to create templates for your content. So I suggest, if you don't have a clue, do like this, but ask your marketeers, friends, because I'm sure each one of us have a quirky way of, building this.
Sure. Cool. All right. Some nice references there. So we've talked a lot about planning, reviewing data, analysis. Once we have all this data and we've got buy-in from the rest of our team, how are we putting this into play? Are we going to market now? Is that the next step? Are we deciding what spend goes against which advertising channel, organic channel, whatever it may be, or is there something else that happens next?
Well, there are a few, I think, rules that people usually say use 60% for advertise and 40% to test. I saw companies that that achieved extreme success by doing differently. Like Monday.com, if I'm not mistaken, they spend 70% in testing and 30% into actuals. And that blew my mind because it's such a risky number. But they were so sure on, because after 70% of your money being spent into understanding your audience, so you have a pretty clear data on what your audience wants. So this 30% was spent so well that the conversion rate from leads to customers was one of the highest ever seen so far. So I think it took them a lot. They were bold, but it's a company evaluated in $7 billion, so I think it worked. So I always recommend to do this: separate your money, your budget, between testing and actuals. Don't skip testing. Don't be afraid of losing money. And I'm putting this in quotes, okay? Losing money on testings, because this is part of the job. This is part of understanding things that your competitors still didn't understand, that your CEO maybe didn't see. So it requires a lot of self-esteem to understand that half of your job, or at least 40% of your job, is testing, meaning it's maybe being wrong, but if you understand that, you don't have problem in risking it.
Yeah. I suppose it depends on like the amount that you can allocate to testing, whether that is
Right.
internal team members on the marketing department, or that is physical budget that you're maybe spending with another agency, whatever. Depends on like the amount of funding your company has. If you're bootstrapped, how tight you are for cash, and a bunch of other things around resources and spend. So it's going to vary, I guess, the amount that you can actually throw into testing, as opposed to
Correct,
actually.
but you do have to spend some amount into testing, and I wouldn't trust any marketeer that wouldn't. This is fundamental part of your job.
Yeah. Well, let's go back
Yeah.
to our scenario. Let's go back to our 20K a month marketing
Okay.
spend scenario. How would you, like we said, we're a B2B tech startup. We're in a category that's mature, so the category has some kind of demand, but we're a
Mhm.
fresh startup. So in that scenario, just as a rough idea, I mean, what would we throw into testing? What would we throw roughly into messaging and other channels? Or how would we chuck money straight away into different channels, or do we evolve our messaging based on what we've learned? Or what are some of
Do we
the first
have
things?
any team, like internal team? How many
Yeah,
people do we have
why
in the
not?
team?
Let's say we've got, I don't know, a 3-person marketing department. So maybe we've got, I don't know, 50 or so staff altogether. We've got a 3-person
Okay.
marketing
Do we
department.
have any data from the past?
Let's say we've done what you've suggested. So we are new, but we've done some competitor analysis. We've looked into all those things. We haven't done anything yet ourselves. All
So
we've
we are
done
a
is,
marketing team with 3 people without internal data. That's tough. Who's the CEO? Let me talk to him. No, I'm kidding. Let me see, because yes, if we have zero data, and the competitor shows, for example, usually from B2B, this is what the competitor is going to show. Our competitors spend most of their money into LinkedIn ads, into Google ads. I would go for that. I would use the competitive advantage of the differential of our product, and understanding like what are the keywords that they use, what are the paid paid advertising that they're doing, what are they offering when they're doing that, and I would play with the differentiator. I would collect data and see like, okay, we can achieve this amount of leads from this channel and that channel, but I wouldn't pause it right away. Even though if it wasn't successful, I wouldn't pause it right away, because in B2B, usually you have a long sales circle. So,
sure.
I've seen B2B with like 3 to 6 months of sale. So you will need to understand, okay, maybe you get X amount of leads or SQLs from, that convert to SQLs from Google, but from that, the percentage that converts to clients, to customers, to one is much smaller than the proportional conversion from another channel, for instance, LinkedIn, that brings you tons of leads and it doesn't convert correctly to SQLs, and it doesn't convert to one. So give it time with this money, because sometimes I think this is the most common mistake. Something is not working, you take it off right away. If your competitors are doing, if the market is doing, so there is maybe a reason for that, so give it a chance. But this comes also from experience. I've been, in companies that I spent some money to understand if it would work to have Facebook ads and Instagram ads for B2B and YouTube. And it's not fast. It's very top of the funnel. It's very difficult to, with a little money, to get relevant leads from less focused channels. And in the beginning, I wouldn't recommend, because this is very good for your brand awareness. This is very good, if you have a set of, again, your tracking is going to help you with that, your understanding is going to help you with that, but it's very good for remarketing. It's very good for, building lists of lookalikes and things like that, that in the beginning you won't have. Also, you have to understand that sometimes we have this perspective of, we know who the persona is for sure, and when it comes to the reality, you see that one of the personas you thought you had, it's not that one, and the message that you thought you would be like the bomb is not.
Yeah.
So this is all very important in the beginning, and if you have a more focused advertising, meaning yes, LinkedIn ads, yes, Google ads, email marketing, by the way, that many people neglect, and I think it's a great way to get demos. If you don't have
Is that
something
marketing or is
faster,
that outbound sales?
no, email marketing. I mean, you can do a mesh. You can do like a mix of both of them. But I am very believer in email marketing. I love nurturing people. I love giving them like things to read, things to do, things to register, and create this little relationship, and then boom, you send them sales. You go and you outbound the hell out of them.
Okay, some points to go dive into a bit deeper there. So you mentioned some fair points. So if we're B2B, if we've got a high ticket product, like you say, it's not going to be a click your fingers and the deal's won. It's going to be a long sales cycle, especially if our ads are trying to appeal to the top of the sales funnel. They might need some nurturing over the time. They might be speaking to sales for some time. So it's something that might take 3-6 months or longer, depending on our typical sales cycle, the value of our product, and so on. Now, a couple questions off this. What things are we looking for? So when it comes to the testing side of things, what things should we be looking into? I.e., are we looking into the messaging and the problems we're talking about to our audience that we fix? Are we looking into, if we're putting out media, like, I don't know, the videos or the graphics, whatever, if we're doing Google ads, I don't know, the keywords we're targeting, the ad copy, and likewise landing pages. And off the back of that, what's a fair timeline? Because we've got to remember we're a startup, we've got limited cash, we're probably under a lot of pressure from the people that we report to, saying, where the hell is the leads? Like, why are demo requests not in yet? So what kind of timeline is fair to give it? So I guess there's 2 points to that. Kind of what are we looking to assess and measure and tweak and optimize? And then likewise, secondly, what timelines are fair?
Right. This is a very complicated question, because I want to be positive when answering that, but it's very simple to me. If you don't have much budget, it will take longer.
Right.
That's something, it's very hard to go around that. Okay, because ads for B2B, they are expensive, and organic takes time. So it's it's something that to protect yourself, understand your limitations. The second thing is, I think it's even more important. Um, when you, and it goes back to, I like to say something. I think is um the best thing I can ever, like, the best advice that I can give. Okay, it's make transparency your biggest ally. When you're building a brand, it's the same thing. Let's say you're building your house. Nobody would come to you and say, like, yeah, can you build my house in 3 days? You can say yes. Okay, give me money to hire the best people and to buy everything I can. And people do that in those crazy reality shows. But what's the budget for building this house? And then you can define the timeline. I don't like to conclude a timeline before we have a whole circle. Okay, it's very it's just half a story. That's what I'm trying to say. If you say to me, like, okay, we have 3 months to understand if spending this 20K per month, which is 60, it's going to define the rest of our year. Dude, I mean, with all the respect, that's not how it works. It's simply not how it works. I can prove it to you. You give me a month and I prove to you this is what we get in a month. Let's multiply that by optimizing. Okay, we want to grow, but we cannot grow with the same amount of money, with the same amount of expertise from 20 to 40. Okay, we can't. It's pure math. So again, make transparency your biggest ally, because it's very hard to tell your manager, your boss, your CEO what you want. It's not what you want with what you have. It's not what we're gonna get. And I think after that, everything gets easier. But just to conclude the A/B testing things, for example, and I'll give you a personal example because I think it's very
Sure.
interesting. um like a while ago, we were doing, I think it was sales emails, like outbounds. And like the whole team, the product, the sales, the biz dev, everybody, they were like, we work with FP&As and CFOs. FP&A is financial planning and analysis, which is like finance teams. And everybody was like, we have to send a very technical email. They're technical people. They know numbers. They know this. They don't. And I'm like, but are you sure? Like, are you 100% sure? Can we find other emails from our competitors? We weren't able to do that. I'm like, listen, let's say BTS. No, we're gonna waste the chance. We know the answer. Like, how do you know the answer? Like, have you done this before? No, but we know. It's like, so you don't know, let me do it and let me test it. And the A/B test was like the same message, but one with a more emotional content and the other one with more technical content. Both would involve product capabilities and what we offer, but like one had a much more marketing language than a sales language. Of course, the one with emotional content was the one who was the winner, the one that everybody was against, because it doesn't matter you know uh, um, how mathematical you are, you're still a human being. You still fall for the same marketing BS that I throw you. I'm sorry. Like, your mind is very conditioned to go for the emotional. You might be a physicist or a mathematician, but you still watch movies, you still watch Netflix, you still play video games. All of these are storytelling. So doesn't matter, you're going to receive an email that has like letters on it, you're going to go for the emotional. So these things are very important. It's like proving everybody wrong with like some humor. Okay, don't make anybody mad, but like, come on. Trust your expertise.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like that old saying, right? People buy emotionally and then justify it with logic.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I have like this saying that actually people buy three things. They buy comfort, status, and time. Like they don't buy anything else. So just make your product sound, or you know, not sound, because sound would impose that it's not a real product. But find in your product where you're selling time, comfort, and status. Less in B2B, you don't need status so much because status is authority. So this is just in brand building. But find in your product where you're selling time and where you're selling comfort. And that's it.
That's a great tip. That's a pro tip. Okay, cool. So we've covered quite a bit, Giovahnna. We've gone through kind of building business cases. We've gone through analyzing. We've gone through planning. We've gone to eventually going to market and testing out ad campaigns. Now, how do we ongoing? What are like the considerations? We talked about kind of ramping up, going to market early stage, getting ads, getting marketing out the door. What should we be considering as on an ongoing basis now we're rocking and rolling? I suppose that the leads are starting to come in, the demos are starting to come in. What are we monitoring and what are we looking out for?
I think one of the things that is important for me to, justify and defend marketing and salespeople is we didn't discuss timing. Okay, like
Yeah.
it's important. We know for a fact that Q4 are usually the ones, people are either desperate to buy because they have budget and that is going to be like renewed next year and that they cannot use, or they are doing, next year KPIs and goals, etc. And you have the solution for these KPIs, or is the beginning of the year that everybody gets like budget and they didn't spend anything yet, so like give them something with a good proposal and they have the money, so they're gonna buy it. And then you have like the very hard period, which is like July and such, because you have the vacations in United States, and you have like it's the middle of everything, so everybody's running with reports, and it's always complicated. So I think this is one of the things that I would like to say that I didn't say before, that
Yeah.
when you're considering data, you also have to consider time. So what was your question again?
It's a good point. You're basically, it sounds like you're saying you've got to consider the time of year for your market and what's going on with them, like if there's summer vacations and if there's an impact in the market that you're targeting and things like that. So I think that's the point you're making, right? Before I go back into my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. It's just because I wanted to clear that up before moving
Don't worry,
forward, because it got in the back of my mind.
I
Like,
do the
we
same.
have to talk. Yeah, we have to
when
talk
I go
about
on
time.
podcasts, I do exactly the same. I ramble on for ages and I forget. I'm like, what was the question again? Anyway, back to the
that's me in a nutshell, by the way. That's I'm answering something like, wait, what did you ask? I don't even remember.
I can relate. I do the same. Now, the question was like we've basically summarized kind of the initial things. We've summarized going to market. What should we consider from an ongoing perspective? So let's say things are starting to work. We're starting to get sales demo requests. Things look like they're on the uptick. We've perhaps tested a few channels. We've got some results. Now, what do we do? Like, what are we monitoring? What are we looking out for? What is the ongoing process after the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months of testing and proving concept?
That's a great question, because I remember now why I start talking about timing, because I think, for example, marketing and sales, they work together, and they have to be aligned. And if there is a boom in timing, for example, Q4 and Q1, and you have like a rest into July, middle year. I always remember my mom when she had like a few business that only worked in the summer. Just she used to work with she had like a bed and breakfast, and she had like a kiosk in the beach in very tropical countries, and nice. She would make a lot of money in the summer, a lot of money, and then absolutely zero in other seasons. So yeah, so she would have to balance this money as a salary through the year. And it's the same thing when we talk marketing and sales. There is an amount of leads coming up in Q4, Q1, and you have to balance this through the, to the middle of the year into the end of the year again when it comes back. So the ongoing job is to balance this graphic, so the graphs would be like, without so much ups and downs when it comes to the other parts of the funnel. So
Mm.
you fill up the top of the funnel when the timing is good, and then you work funnel
Yeah.
down with the sales. The other thing, because that there are times that works better, things that work better on Q4 and Q1. So let's try to work the other things, for example, outbound and more personal connections, partnerships, into the rest of the year that is not so fulfilled as the last quarter and first quarter. So balancing the type of work you put into marketing and sales efforts during the year. This is an ongoing job.
Let me play devil's advocate again before we wrap
Sure.
things up.
Please.
So I'm like right now, for example, the points you've raised are very valid. Like a lot of markets are seasonal, and the fact is, if your decision makers that buy your stuff are on holiday, you're not going to sell them, unless the odd one that's working away whilst on holiday, maybe they'll buy, but that's few and far apart. So if seasons are going to affect things, and you made some good recommendations about leveraging channel partnerships and various other things, so your sales aren't falling flat during those times. But I suppose it's because we're in a market that's like, for example, with us, websites and SEO are usually in demand quite year round. And a lot of people still say to me, like, because what's going on with the UK right now, like the pound's crashing, a prime minister's just resigned. There's terrible things going on in the market. I mean, I try to avoid watching the news, like, because it just depresses
Oh
me.
yeah.
So I just don't watch or listen to it. I ignore it. I'd rather listen to podcasts that are useful and going to help me. But that's another topic. I digress.
Good tip. Yeah.
But with that said, can we not just power through? This might just be my small mind, but can we not just power through these recessions? And can we not just ramp up other angles of our business to overcome them? Or do we just need to face that certain times of year business is going to be tougher because stuff's going on?
Definitely, you don't have a small mind. If somebody has a small mind, it's me, because I'm very set in my ways in a way. It's like I do think that people play differently. I am a little bit more conservative with time and money than I am with like my personal life. I work wise, I like to play safe. I do, a few things occasionally that are like wow. um, you know, I do think that if you don't risk, you you're not in a good part of the war, part of the fight. I think you should risk. But as a person who plays safe, I it's not about not powering through necessities or not powering through harsh moments. Is if you have, because you know ahead that there are months better than the others. So you kind of plan according to, you know that this is a little bit lower, so let's again align the KPIs, so also your team is not going to be frustrated on
Yeah.
like, oh my god, what did I do wrong? If it was
Mm-hmm.
working, in the past and it's not working right now, is it my fault? And I try to avoid, first of all, I try to avoid this word at all. Like fault is something that I don't think it fits work environment. But to understand that, like, to if you want to change something, you might frustrate people. Not everybody is, takes work personally, like I do. For example, I'm very goal motivated and I'm like go getter. But I do understand my team, sometimes they are like 9 to 5 kind of workers, and that's also okay. You have to understand the limitations of people, and that you don't want to frustrate your team, so be prepared ahead. um I have, like, we've been through crazy times lately, so of course if I didn't know how to power it through, I wouldn't have, succeed, for example, in corona times, where I was working at a company that now it's evaluated in $2 billion. And it thrived during Corona because we were one of the first ones to actually, invest in webinars before people even consider that. We did online events. We went from, and saying this right now, I was like, yeah, of course, obvious. But back then, people were so confused on like what's going to happen in 2 months from now, and we thrived. And I think this is a little bit of the leadership that you're going to. Okay, this is the road we're going, so let's do that. I don't think seasoning is part of like the defeat. I think it's just part of it, like because we know in advance, so it's not like it's not like a pandemic or something. It's just something, but again, my truth is not universal. This is my way to deal with marketing. I do admire other marketeers that do very different than me. And I don't think there is in that specific point. I don't think that there is a right answer. I play safe, mostly because it's my way. But if you don't, it's also okay. If you don't and it works, of course, go for it. Teach me
Yeah.
something. I love it. I love that.
Yeah. Ultimately, I just wanted to look at it from a different point of view, and like some of this is mindset, some of this is good business sense, like you say, planning ahead, realizing if you can plan for certain things, then it just makes sense to make sure that you've got systems in place within your business to attack that. Likewise, at the
Because this
same
is
time.
strategy. This is the way I know how to play the game. I could learn how to play differently, and of course, I would love to. That again doesn't mean that there is there. I'm not saying that this is the right answer. I'm just saying it's my answer.
Well, yeah, of course, everyone's entitled to what they do, but it sounds like you've done it very well from what you've shared with us so far. So,
Thank you, sir.
with that, Giovahnna, let's wrap things up. Thanks very much for going through your strategy with us. It's been a fun session, and I'm sure myself and everyone tuning in has learnt a fair bit. So, with that, please do tell us more about how everyone can connect with you, learn from you, a bit more about your business, and what's the best way for people to get in touch.
Awesome. I mean, you can get in touch on my LinkedIn. I have a free mentorship program for people who want to learn more about marketing. You do have to apply though; it's not for everybody. But if you pass, it's completely free, and it's free without the catch. Okay, without the catch in the end that you have to pay for something. No, it's just a mentorship program for you to power all of your powers, to empower you, etc. I'm also launching 2 books this and the next year. But everything you will know by following me on my LinkedIn. It's Giovahnna Ziegler, and that's it.
Thanks very much, Giovahnna. We shall put those links over on the show notes at businessgrowth.marketing, and let us
Yeah.
know when the books are out, and I'll certainly help you promote those on LinkedIn and
Well,
such.
thank you.
No worries.
It's
Thanks
been
once
a
again.
pleasure.
You're very welcome. So, as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a rating or review on your audio podcast channel, or if you're on YouTube, a quick subscribe is always appreciated. And with that, catch you on the next episode for more no BS, actionable B2B marketing tips to grow your business and, most importantly, your revenue. Catch you on the next one.